A spectacle of nature, that's what Namibia is. It's the location for this week's Railway. With only 1.5 million inhabitants, Namibia is characterized by an almost endless vastness. Nature rules here, with fierce canyons, rough coasts, endless sand plains, and a wealth of plants and animals. It's been dubbed the Diamond of Africa because of the spectacular beauty of the country. A diamond that had long been hidden, but that's now been discovered by a growing number of tourists. We travel with them in a hotel on rails, the Shongololo Express. We meet our fellow passengers in Tsumeb, a small city in the north of the country. They'd begun earlier on the 13-day tour of the Shongololo Express through Namibia. The train is fully equipped as a hotel and sometimes also called the Shongololo Safari Hotel. The Shongololo primarily rides at night so that the travelers can enjoy the short African days to the fullest. It comes equipped with some minivans to take the hotel guests to the nature reserves after breakfast. With our backpacks packed and the safari guide behind the wheel, we're ready for our first excursion. We're going to the Etosha National Park, one of the oldest and largest nature reserves on the African continent. The safari park encompasses more than 22,000 square kilometers. It's the habitat of 340 species of birds and 144 different mammals, including the famous Big Five: lion, buffalo, rhinoceros, leopard, and elephant. Exactly 100 years ago, the last elephant was killed here. Currently, there are large herds moving around. Different groups with a total of more than 2,000 family members now lead a protected life. In the sweltering morning heat, the animals are on their way to watering holes on the edge of a salt pan of 5,000 square kilometers. The supply of water in the pan is unsuitable as drinking water because of the high salt content. That's why the animals look for their refuge in the surrounding water holes. These are fed by underground springs all year round. The muddy banks too are utilized as a beauty bath for warthogs. Tired but satisfied after a beautiful game drive, we return to Tsumeb late in the afternoon. Just before it gets dark, the vans must be loaded onto the train. Meanwhile, the passengers gather in the train's lounge. The early evening will be spent discussing the program with the guide for the upcoming days. From each destination there are various excursions that can be made, and it's up to the passenger to decide which van he'll be riding on the next day. Although limited, each group traveller has some choice in what he can or can't do. The wishes of the guests are taken into consideration as much as possible. On your honeymoon, then you get a romantic table in the great outdoors. It's already past midnight when a locomotive from the Namibian Railway is hitched on. The Shongololo Express is ready for departure. As the train slowly gets moving, some guests enjoy themselves in the bar. It's a good place to be for a nightcap. But most of the passengers have long since gone to bed. Tomorrow will be another early start. At 5:30 in the morning, we arrive in Otjiwarongo, south of Tsumeb. Otjiwarongo is an important place in Namibia. It's located on the way to the Etosha Safari Park, but also on the way to a natural wonder that rises 150 meters above the plain, the spectacular Waterberg Plateau. It was here where, at the turn of the century, a violent battle took place between German colonists and the indigenous Herero inhabitants. At the foot of this plateau, the German victims found their final resting place. At one time, dinosaurs wandered here. Now the Waterberg Plateau Park is one of Namibia's key nature reserves where countless endangered species are protected. The wild animals, adventurous hiking routes and many natural baths not only attract tourists, but especially many Namibians. The park is one of the top weekend excursions. We're back in Otjiwarongo. In this city, language and architecture are reminders of both German as well as South African domination. The German colonists arrived in 1884, but were expelled by the South Africans just after the outbreak of World War I. They obtained the mandate for the country. In 1945, the United Nations voted that the mandated regions needed to become independent. South Africa, however, refused to abide by the decision. A fierce battle for independence followed, which was led by SWAPO guerrilla fighters. It took until 1990 before Namibia could finally call itself an independent republic. We return in our van to the station of Otjiwarongo to continue our journey through this young African nation. The platform has been used as a clothesline for our laundry during our absence. Laundry is one of the many things we needn't worry about on this trip. It's very busy at the Shongololo Express. Passengers are removing their luggage while other vans that returned earlier are being loaded onto the train. There aren't any lights at the station, so both passengers and vans must be in before dark. Daylight quickly gives way to darkness in Africa, so some haste is required. The guide talks to the passengers about the past day, while a bit further ahead, the linen room is in operation. As the last passenger hoists his luggage on board, the doors of the Shongololo Express close. Not long afterwards, nighttime falls and the train departs. We set course for the coast, to the best-known bathing resort of Namibia, Swakopmund. On the train, our great speed is hardly noticeable. An old witch doctor came up with the name Shongololo for this very reason. It's the Zulu word for centipede. He said, if a centipede walks, his feet are working furiously, but his upper torso remains stationary. A fine analogy for a train that carries sleeping passengers. After a journey of 9 hours, we arrive early in the morning at the station of Swakopmund. The city was founded because the Germans decided to build a port here in the beginning of their colonization. Situated between the desert on one side and a wide expanse of beach on the other, it's now become a vacation resort that's very popular with the Namibian population. On the train, the passengers gradually wake up. After breakfast, another beautiful day awaits them. Guides and vans are ready, waiting for the daily excursions. We signed up for a tour of Swakopmund, known for its beautiful architecture. Many buildings date back to the period at the turn of the century, and 11 of them have already been declared national monuments. such as this former station building, currently a luxury hotel. At the beginning of the century, donkeys once pulled rail cars to and from the port. Now it's a sanctuary for the happy few. Swakopmund still has an unmistakably German atmosphere. We pass big villas, partly built out of wood, and a small structure that once belonged to the missionaries, the first Germans to arrive in Namibia. The simple colonial court building, too, is diligently maintained and is surrounded by one of the many public gardens in the city. This looks like a Bavarian village, our Namibian tour guide tells us, but the great architecture, palm trees and wide streets remind us of a more worldly city. Even the shopping streets have a relaxed atmosphere. After the peaceful city walking tour, we sign up for a boat trip to Walvis Bay. Cheerful dolphins accompany us. It's a wonderful experience. As we approach Walvis Bay, curious seals show up. And this is only a small number of the enormous colony that left the bank to dance and play, begging for food. After a healthy afternoon out on the water, the passengers are back at the base. The Shongololo Express warms up for the next trip. We leave the coast and track inland to Marienthal, an agricultural settlement. In the early morning hours, we become acquainted with the Namib, the endless, vast area to which the country owes its name. Under the shimmering sun, the centipede crawls through the dry, immense plain. The Shongololo Express has only been riding here for a few years, but it's already a huge success. The old cars were rented from the Namibian Railway, renovated and remodeled into a hotel in a record 8 months. Its 32 sleeping cars are simple but comfortable and decorated in the typical African style of the countryside we journey through this morning. The small station of Marienthal is the point of departure for our vans to one of the highlights of our journey. Art directors from all over the world came before us. Countless video clips, TV commercials and advertisements were filmed against the magnificent backdrop of this park. It happens to be one of the most spectacular of Namibia, the Sossusvlei. An immeasurable landscape surrounds us. Here, where red-covered dunes reach heights of hundreds of meters, Mother Nature made her most enchanting composition with color and form. Time passes, even in a still-life landscape such as the Sossusvlei. We're once again on our way to the next highlight, Fish River Canyon. A journey of several hours takes us to a stop in the middle of nowhere. Holoch is nothing more than a road sign. Second only to the Grand Canyon in America, Fish River Canyon is the largest in the world. The steep cliffs reach depths of up to 500 meters at some spots. Together they form an impressive canyon that runs through 160 kilometers of rough wilderness. It's a spectacular example of African nature. Our journey has come to an end, and for the last time, we take our seats aboard the Shongololo Express. And while the kitchen staff are hard at work preparing our dinner, we feast our eyes one more time on the Namibian countryside. Next time, railway journeys to the south of France and the beautiful island of Corsica. Join us then.